Welcome back to Silent Sales Machine Radio. We are your co-hosts. I'm Brian.
And I'm Robin Joy.
And this is Coach's Corner.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing great. Why don't you tell us what you have on your mind today? What's going on? What's been happening lately?
I was thinking about, we talk a lot about predictability, sustainability, and scalability.
Yeah.
And scalability is where I find that a lot of people struggle, to actually implement the things that will help them scale.
It can be a little scary.
It is quite scary when you start, when you're the one doing all the work yourself, you're talking to yourself. It's super easy to justify things, to make excuses, to overlook, to, do all the and whatever, whether that's, subconsciously happening or real happening for real. And I would say subconscious is for real too in that case, right? Is that it's easy to overlook, the little things that aren't maybe quite right that are holding you back from scaling. And so some of the topics I included today were about how to get over those little things and get you to the next step about scaling up your business.
All right. Well, what do you think we should do about that?
Well, first of all, the first thing that comes to mind is a lot of times we're starting this business with this mentality that we are going to use our own elbow grease.
Right. And that's initially a lot of times all we have, right?
Yeah, totally. And it's one of the reasons why this kind of business is accessible to us and to many people is because we can use our own elbow grease, right?
That is true. In the beginning, you're doing everything yourself. You're working the system out. You're figuring out how you want things to go. But there comes a point where one man can only do so much, or woman, or couple can only do so much, and you need to spread out those tasks a little bit.
Yeah. In the beginning, let's go back. Let's dial back the clock and talk about the three governors in the business.
Yeah.
Right? What are we talking about are the three main governors, time, money, and ASINs, right? So especially once you kind of solve for those three governors, and then you don't have any more governors, you think you don't have any more governors, but then I would argue that the fourth governor is yourself.
You kind of become the bottleneck.
Yeah.
In the progress, yeah.
You become the bottleneck because you are the lone doer, or you and your business partner are the lone doers in the business, right? And so I guess the first thing I wanted to get out was every little small dollar task that you put out there that you're doing is holding you back from dramatically growing your business, right? Every customer feedback that you're responding to, every item that you are individually sourcing, every item that you put in a bag and prep. And 2:30 in the morning, if you're not sleeping and you're prepping in the back room, it's hard necessarily to be strategic at that point.
Yes, that's
because,
true.
Your brain may not be at full power. And so it's fine. I'm not saying you should never tape a box or put something in a bag.
No,
or
we
source an item.
definitely have taped our share of boxes.
But if you can identify which tasks are in your Amazon business that are small dollar that you can start to leverage other resources, whether those are human resources or tools or services, then you're going to actually be able to get all that time back that you were spending on that and start to think more strategically about your business as opposed to the day-to-day tactical things.
I do remember when we first started outsourcing our shopping and shipping, it became necessary for us to really pin down our processes and know exactly what we wanted. It's because we couldn't help her be successful until we knew what success looked like, what we wanted her to come out with. So it really helped us kind of clear some systems up.
Well, and finish some systems.
Yeah.
Right? Like a lot of times you leave it unfinished because you are the last mile and you do all these things yourself. But when you're forced to finish it so that you can hand it off to somebody else, all of a sudden now it's like, it's a real thing.
Yeah.
It's not off the side of your desk. It's just something that you can actually pay someone else to do.
Yes.
And get that time and back in your life, right? So what are some of those beginning or, small dollar tasks that we can typically outsource in the early days?
Well, shopping and shipping was one of the first ones for us.
Shopping and shipping was
which included prepping
and
inbound shipping.
Yep. So we provide a shopping list. And that resource then would go shopping, do the prepping, and get it shipped in for us on our account, right? So what did we have to do? We had to train them on our inventory management system. We had to train them on our shipping software. And we had to train them on how to look up ASINs so that they could validate things.
Validate, make sure they're doing the right one.
Yeah. So it really isn't that complex when you think about it. But you want to find out where the holes in your process are.
Yeah. Tell somebody else. Right. You're absolutely right. That's true. And so when we have like a prep center or something, it seems like it should be just easy. Well, they know what they're doing. But you don't want them to decide what your business is. So that relationship and that talking over, this is my system. This is what I expect. Is that what you can supply or not? That's really super, super important. And the communication. I know I've talked to a lot of people that have had communication problems because they said, okay, well, they just told me to send it to them and they'd take care of it. But then there was an issue, right? And they didn't have their systems about how to deal with issues or the communication open with the prep center. So I would say those are very, very important things, even when you're using a prep center who's done this before.
Agreed. Some of those other small tasks that I think that you can document and outsource would be sourcing. And we talked about this
if you have a system
a couple of weeks ago. If you've got a system and you're not hiring someone who's an expert sourcing person already, right?
Well, I mean, yeah. When people tell you they're experts at sourcing, sometimes you should be really wary. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Wary.
Yeah.
Because there are many, 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 many methods of sourcing, and it needs to be your method or it's not going to work with your system. And
one of the things we talk about a lot is the revolutionary concepts that are coming out of this community. One of them is like your above buy box approach.
Sure.
And while your whole catalog of ASINs, your whole book of business is not going to be above buy box, if you don't at least try it above buy box, you'll never know if it could have been above buy box. And sourcing for above buy box can be different. So if someone comes in as an expert and I already know how to do all this, I bet you 99.9% of the time they don't understand above buy box.
Right. Maybe not the way you at least expect it to be done in your business. Yeah, and we've seen a lot of times, in the replens business, which is very popular in this community, the place where we usually start people who say they already know how to source, they're looking for sales codes and things that are on sale, and that doesn't really work with the replens. So they're just different things that you really, really need to understand where you are so that you can assess if that's the right person to help you do those tasks.
So sourcing is one. If you've got like shipping issues or you need to interact with Amazon from an administrative standpoint, whether that's customer service, whether that's repricing, there are a lot of administrative things that you can also create standard operating procedures for and get it outsourced.
Absolutely. Agreed.
Okay. We talked about it a little bit with some of these psychological barriers that get in the way of letting you do this, right?
Well, I know you're a little bit of a control freak. So.
Oh, you think I'm the only control freak here?
Not me. That's you. I allow you.
Okay, well, if I'm the control freak, you're the perfectionist. Okay.
I don't know about that.
But let's talk about
those things get in the way.
Let's talk about three things that do get in the way and I think are considered psychological barriers. Number one is fear of losing control. This is the control freak mentality that is like, wait. You didn't do that the way you didn't do that the way I wanted it done, or you didn't follow my system for it, or
how am I going to know I look here for that? And if it's not there,
Right. So fear of losing control. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to have to jump in and save the world, and you're not going to know where anything is. Everything's going to be a mess, and you're like, hold on, I just don't even want to deal with that. I'm just going to keep doing it all, right?
Yeah, happens all the time in all kinds of different businesses and in jobs and industries. It's a real thing.
Same thing with perfectionism, right? I don't
know what you're talking about.
Yeah. If you don't trust anyone else to do it as good as you do it, then you're never going to get it outsourced.
When you are the best. I'm just kidding.
Right.
I'm kidding, of course.
When you're the best, can't settle for less, right? The challenge with that is when you're the best at doing that, but are you really the best at living your life? Because you don't have any time to do it because you're so busy doing the other things.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It makes me not a very good boss, right?
Right.
If I have people working for me.
Oh my gosh, talk about micromanagement, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not
Don't you
good.
hate working for
Oh,
perfectionists?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't like
Yeah,
that either.
not good.
And the other thing that I think gets in the way is the focusing on the immediate cost
Uh-huh.
versus the long-term gain that you're going to get, right?
Yeah.
This is where
The cost can be scary. Yeah.
I tend to, this is what catches me up. I'm
Yeah.
like, what, $50 now? What? Hold on a second. Like,
Yeah.
you don't always realize I have to go back and do the self-talk. Like, it's $50 investment now, or whatever the amount is,
Mhm.
right? It's the investment now that's going to pay dividends in the long run.
Well, I find it a little bit scary as well because you're committing to someone to, have a relationship with them where they can be successful and make money too.
Mhm.
So then I'm suddenly responsible to shore up my end of that deal, right? So that's a little scary to me. However, when I look back at when we first started doing that, I realized that was the best thing that we could do
Mhm.
because it just allowed us to do so much more and be able to, I don't know how to say it. It made us do things that we wouldn't have maybe completed, right? It made us actually do the things that we said we were doing.
It made us work at a different level of the business.
Yes, absolutely.
We weren't in the nuts and bolts. We were in just the higher level strategy things.
Right. So initially we needed to supply a shopping list,
Mhm.
right? Well, that meant we had to supply a shopping list every week. We couldn't take a week off. She was depending
right.
on us.
Yes. And that's why it's easy. If it's just you, you're like, oh, I'm just going to take the day
Just
off.
take the day off.
Yeah.
No big deal. We'll go on vacation for a week and, we'll see how it goes. But you get a lot more consistent when you are obligated to someone else. And honestly, I think that's the best thing for our growth.
It is. And what will help you outgrow that, or
Yeah.
that like, there was some growth that happened there when
Sure.
we got to where we were just supplying the shopping list, right? But you want to have growth even more than that is get the shopping list creation off your plate too. And then you can take the day off.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And let's talk about what is the cost? What are you giving up if you really are the one doing everything?
Well, time.
Uh-huh.
The ability to expand, work on my business instead of in my business, like you always like to say.
Yes. So you got limited scaling potential,
Mm-hmm.
like we were talking about, because you are the governor.
Mm-hmm.
There's the opportunity cost of your time.
I could be doing higher dollar things.
When you make yourself worth $4 an hour or $5 an hour,
Yeah.
You can be doing $200 an hour effort instead of $5 an hour effort tasks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the other costs I mentioned earlier is the impact on your personal life. On if you're the one doing everything, and your kids and your spouse or whoever is like, oh, where's Brian? Oh, Brian's still working on the Amazon business.
Mm-hmm.
Really? It's family time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where's Dad? He's working on the Amazon business. Really? It's my ball game this week. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to get out of that situation sooner. This is a whole reason you probably started the business in the first place.
Right. I mean, you're just giving yourself another job, right?
Right.
But I like for people to remember, what was your why for doing this in the first place? Is so you could spend time with your family, so you wouldn't miss your kids growing up, or in our case, our grandkids. Like, this is important. So don't forget why you're putting in all this extra work and find ways to make it give you that.
I say, if you're going to do the extra work to create the process so that you can outsource it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
make no mistake. In the beginning, there's not much choice. In order for those systems to be set up, you have to do the work to get them set up.
Right.
But there needs to be a goal for it into that time where you can take your hands off a little bit more.
Agreed.
If you want to have that time back. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about some practical steps that people can take to transition from being a doer to more of a leader in their business.
Okay.
So the first one that comes to mind is we picked this up at the Legends conference. In terms of turning a video where you might record yourself doing the process of, whatever it is that you're doing, whether that's the prepping and the shipping or the sourcing or the handling of customer requests or Amazon requests or whatever, make a little video recording for it. And then you can actually have an SOP created from that with the help of AI. whether this is Grok, ChatGPT, Gemini, any of the tools that are out there, right? You can usually feed it both the video that you created, an example SOP, and say, make an SOP from this video following this format, boom.
Yeah.
And then you give that, both things to your person, right? The video and the document. Sure.
I think it's important for them to understand what the task is about, what's important about the task. Because, I tell the Kickstart folks a lot of times, they say, should I use a poly bag or not? Do I have to use a poly bag? I say, no, you don't have to use a poly bag in every case. It's absolutely your decision. But in our business, everybody knows it's poly bag unless you get a special dispensation from us. Because it's the default. Like, you need to have standards that they always know where to go to, because they don't want to have to make these decisions. They don't want to have to ask you every time. Like, there's a default. This is what's important about it. Don't get tied up in the details. Well, this one might not need a poly bag. Just use a poly bag.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. When in doubt.
When in doubt. Right.
So start with one task. Document that process thoroughly with a video and creation of an SOP. And then set expectations for whoever's going to be doing that, for what you expect and what does success look like there?
Yeah.
What does good look like to get through that?
Right.
And when I said earlier, like, you're going to find the holes in your system when you ask someone else to do it, expect that too yourself, especially the first few times that you're creating this. Because the first few times are like, oh, I didn't think about that. Yes, I'm doing it. I'm connecting the dots in my head.
Exactly.
Right?
You're exactly right. Yeah, that happened with us and still does a lot of times. Oh, now I see why I need to write that down.
Yeah.
Now I need to see why I need to explain to you what's important about that. You're getting tied up with the dot and the I's, and really crossing the T's is more important, and the I's will pretty much dot themselves, whatever the case may be. I'm, of course, making stuff up, but you get the idea.
Yeah. Well, as we shift gears from that, like, that was kind of a one task thing that we can start with, and we can start handing those types of tasks off to other people, then our business can shift almost into like a overdrive, because we're going from the me to the we situation.
Okay.
And as a leader, when you give people the ability to stand out, to make a difference, to want to do better, you're going to find that there are people out there who are better than you at a lot of tasks.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Absolutely.
And then you're going to go, thank goodness I elected to get out of the way.
My sister doesn't really let me touch the tape gun.
Yeah.
I'm just not good at it.
Right.
She can just like, and I'm like, oh, I got it folded. Oh, I got it taut. Oh, and I'm just covered in tape all of a sudden.
And then, oh, you didn't pack the box right. You're like, wait a second, all that's supposed to fit in this box? Right? Well, this is what happens when you pack thousands and thousands of boxes. And I don't mean like like the box that maybe a product goes in.
Yeah.
Right. She's used to doing it a certain way, boom, boom, boom. And then you can put so many of those boxes in a shipping box, and then efficiencies.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it surprises me how people who have one task to do, to us, it's one task. To them, it's their whole job.
Right.
And how they create their own processes and their own ways of doing things to end up at the place where we want them to be.
And they naturally create efficiencies that enables them to spend less time and effort doing it. Why?
Because that's what they do.
Well, because we're humans, and they're looking for the path of least resistance.
Absolutely.
They want to they don't want to spend.
They want to be able to get it done.
They don't want to spend 8 hours a day packing a box if they can get it done in 6.
Sure.
Right. So of course they're motivated to do well. They want to make their hours, dollars per hour increase instead of, so especially if they're getting paid by the piece or whatever, instead of not by the hour. But some of the key systems then I think that you can outsource to start getting this leverage in your business is some of the things we've already talked about, but the sourcing systems.
Yes.
Right. The sourcing process that you have, the tools that you're using to store, track, and filter. If you turn someone loose who's really good at sourcing in an environment that is conducive to being good and even getting better at it, they will.
I think especially in the case of sourcing, simplicity is key. If you have a simple system, 1, 2, 3, this is what we need to know, and a recognition that We're not looking for profitable ASINs. We don't want someone to make that decision. We want them to make a decision based on certain criteria if those are testable ASINs.
Yep.
Someone tests for sources for us. They give us back a list of testable ASINs. We have yet. The test is going to tell us whether they're profitable or not. But what we're feeding is testable ASINs. Yes.
I caught you yesterday. I was like,
Did I
remember? No, I can't even remember what the conversation was, but I said, remember, the test is supposed to tell us whether it was successful. It wasn't related to Amazon, but it was something else that we had going on. And I was like, let the test tell us if it was right.
Yeah.
It's true. And as I'm transitioning our business away from our spreadsheet empire into 3P Mercury and redoing a lot of our systems, this is why this is so relevant to me lately.
Yeah.
Because I'm back, like my sleeves are rolled up and I'm back in this, like, a lot more than I have been over the past several years. And so it's resonating with me more now about these systems and how I'm going to get this to a point where I can get this time back.
Yeah.
I don't feel like, nights and weekends are back managing my business again.
Yes.
Now nights and weekends are doing a very important step, but it doesn't take that long. And it is called quality control, right? It's way easier for me to do quality control than it is for me to do sourcing, for me to do shopping, prepping, shipping, for me to do financials and all that kind of stuff.
And quality control gives us ideas of things that we need to change that we might not have thought about when we were doing it ourselves. Just because it makes sense to us does not necessarily mean it makes sense to someone else.
Right. So the inventory management piece is another one that you can pretty easily, especially if you're using a solid system, you can hand that off to somebody else. If you're using a system like Inventory Lab or Boxed or whatever the various systems are out there.
I think there are a lot of them now.
There are a lot of them out there.
But it's become so much easier to just use Seller Central to ship your items. Too. And more people are just doing that without buying an additional tool for that.
In the financial tracking, I think one of the things that really made a difference for us on a day-to-day basis was the implementation of Sellerboard.
Yeah.
And Sellerboard just lets me take a look at any point in time. How am I doing for the day? How am I doing for the week? How am I doing for the month, quarter, year, whatever? Now, this does not replace our accountant.
No.
Right? But this is sort of my day-to-day bookkeeping for me to be able to see, is this working the way I thought it was going to work? And I don't have to wait. We can never get our month's close as fast as we would like.
Right.
Wouldn't it be awesome if we could close the previous month in the first 7 days of the next month?
Yeah.
It never happens like that, though, right?
Not that easily. No, it takes a lot of work.
It's usually toward the end of the month, if not the beginning of the month after. And so now your look could be 4 to 6 weeks old at how things are going. And you've already made decisions with a lot of assumptions. And that's why a tool like Sellerboard, where you can just quality check that. Oh, is this working the way I thought? Oh, did we get our prices, our cost of goods in there right? All that kind of stuff is going to give you a lot more timely feedback.
Absolutely. I have, with Sellerboard, one of my favorite things that I've found that works for us, just to go off script, is that we get a flag when some listing that we're on changes. And that can be very important because the brand has changed before. And that's a serious issue that we don't want to get caught up in. Or, the pictures change and all of a sudden it's not the right thing anymore. And, things happen and it gives you an idea.
Telling you about this one yesterday where it was a new test, sent it in. All of a sudden the listing got changed to a 2-pack. I'm like, oh, shoot. Yeah. I'm going to get terrible reviews for that. And then it got switched to 1-pack.
So you closed it.
So I closed it. And then it switched back to the 1-pack. Great. I opened it up, sold some more. And then it got changed to a 2-pack again. And then this morning, I'm in there looking at it, and it got changed back to a 1-pack again.
Oh, my goodness.
So, it's like, at this point, I'm just going to put it on hold for a while.
Let it settle out. But these things do happen. Until the struggle
goes back and forth. It does, absolutely. Yeah. The images are changed as well as part of this. The title gets changed. There's not a variation anymore. There's just a lot of things that can happen. And this tool like Sellerboard keeps you in the loop of that.
Right. Right, because you may not have noticed any of that if you hadn't been keeping an eye through that. Okay.
So how do you document it? We were talking about that just a minute ago. Like, take a video, build out your SOP that is in writing that you can deliver in PDF or whatever. And I know that you're a big fan of checklists. A checklist is another great way to get through.
If you've never read the book Checklist Manifesto, can't remember the author, we'll have to get it for you, but Checklist Manifesto, that spoke to me that I use it on everything.
Well, we actually spend a lot of time breaking this out in our upcoming book, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Exciting times.
Exciting times.
The manuscript is done. Now we're just working on a couple of illustrations and graphics, and then we're going to go into pre-launch here in the next month or so. And
it's coming.
It is on the way, but as an example, in the book, we've got checklists in there to help people, very similar to the content that we give to our coaching clients. Mm-hmm. And then also a decision tree. So in my day, we called it a flow chart, but a decision tree, right? Like
back in the 1900s?
Oh, yes, back in the 1900s. Yeah. Shuddy. Yeah. Anyway, and then one of the other things we talk about a lot is the feedback loop. Now, we generally are talking about the feedback loop from Amazon, right? We analyze some data. We send in information, products to Amazon. We get information back. This is the feedback loop that we get. But we also get that feedback loop with the people and the services that we're using when we're scaling our business.
True.
So you got to stay in touch. Make sure that the lines of communication are open because...
business is not set it and forget it. I don't know of a business that's like that. Even if you're just a silent investor, that rarely happens. You got to check in. It's your name on the line. You got to know what's going on.
Because we both come from an IT background, we spent some time getting educated and getting certified in ITIL or Information Technology Information Library, which is like a structure, a system, a foundation of how to
continually improve.
One of the things in there is the continual improvement.
Yes.
Right. And so the continual improvement that you have with your people, right, is important. And they're going to start bringing ideas to you for how to continually improve.
Yes. And that's important to listen to because they're doing this. They're in it every day.
That's right.
So listen. They have things to say that can be very valuable. And
they're the ones working with the systems as they evolve.
Right.
Right. Like this is one of the reasons we got so disconnected from the Amazon Seller Central inbound shipping workflow was that we migrated away from that back in 2019, and we've been on a different tool.
Back when it was really hard to do a shipment in Seller Central.
The entire time, right? Meanwhile, the evolution of the shipping process within Seller Central has been continuously improving.
Yes.
And today it's a completely different interface and experience than it was 5-6 years ago.
Right.
And so now for us to go in there, how many times have we asked other coaches who use it, can you make us a video for that? Because we don't actually use it. But with our coaching clients, it's kind of important that if they're not using a tool like Inventory Lab or something, that they do know how to do it. And we can kind of walk them through that process.
Yep. Yeah. Right. And we can. I mean, it has become much easier to get through and much more intuitive. So we can actually do a shipment in Seller Central if we have to now.
Only one pain point for me is that when we print FN SKUs in Seller Central, it doesn't include the expiration date if your product has an expiration date.
Yeah.
So it requires a whole different label to print that on there. Whereas in other solutions, it can combine the two on the same label. But
you know what I'd call that?
What's that?
An obstacle that you shouldn't let stop you.
Yeah, I agree.
It's overcomable.
I would say it's not worth a $50, $80, $100 a month tool.
I'm just saying, this is not something that should stop you in your tracks. Oh, I don't have, right?
Yeah, yeah. And maybe
this or that.
Maybe it is worth $50 a month. Who knows?
Who knows?
Right. You have to make that call. But all right. Well, the last point that I wanted to chat about today is something that we did touch on a couple of episodes back around something we picked up at the Legends conference, which is when you're scaling your business, you start moving away from how and you start moving toward who, right? It becomes a who, not how situation because the how is easy. Like we used to say this all the time, like we've solved for the how, right? For you coming in, if you're brand new building a business, we as a community have solved for the
We show you how to do that.
Right. There's 14 different ways, 24 different ways, 40 different ways
Not really
to do it,
right and wrong.
Right. So when you're just starting your business, now it becomes more about the why. Why am I going to be spending all this time away? Why am I putting all this time and effort into this? Why, right? We solve for the how.
What am I going to do with what I got out of this? Yeah.
And for now, when we're scaling our business, it's not about how, but it's about who. So we have to get out of the habit of doing the same old stuff that's just keeping us stuck, right? Because it feels comfortable. We're in our comfort zone.
I'm just choking over whom. It should be whom.
Whom? Oh, gosh. I'm getting grammatically corrected on the Coach's Corner podcast.
Oh, yeah, like it's the first time.
Oh, I get corrected all the time, just not on a podcast. Yeah.
Anyway, please continue.
No, tell me why it should be whom and not who.
We would. No,
Okay.
this is not about grammatics.
Well, anyway, this mindset shift. Not about how, but about who. Break the habit of doing all the things that you would normally do because it's in your comfort zone, right? Mm-hmm. And you're operating at a higher level than is just keeping yourself busy. More than, this is what I always like to say, working on your business instead of working in your business, right? Exactly. It is a mindset shift to go from this, okay, I need to go and source. I need to go and do all these things to, I need a quality check and I need to think strategically. Agreed?
Agreed.
All right. So do we have some practical steps for the listeners here that can help them sort of make this transition? I think we do.
Well, as you know, I'm a big fan of the number 3.
Oh, yes.
Not so much a fan of number 4, but number 3 I like.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
So 3 repetitive tasks that you do every week that could be systematized.
I love it. Let's talk about 3 repetitive tasks. We gave some examples earlier. But...
Right. But I wanted to throw in, like, if there are tasks that you can make a checklist on, checklists are easy to have someone else. And that way you know if it got done, they know if it got done, and you're all speaking the same language.
That's right.
Check, that happened. Check, that happened. Okay, everything happened. Moving on.
That's right. Great. So let's identify 3 repetitive tasks that you do every day. Second step, create a simple process document for one of these tasks. It could be a checklist. It could be a process workflow, like a flow chart or something like that.
Or a combination thereof.
Or a combination. And then let's consider, now we're getting to the last part here, the who. Who can do this for you? Who can take ownership of this? Is it a team member, a virtual assistant, a son, daughter, niece, nephew, an in-law, someone across the street from you? It's basically an endless set of options there.
Someone you know that needs some extra money.
Exactly. But the big challenge, let's go back to the first talking point, was you have to be willing to let go of some of that.
Yeah.
Right?
And I got to say, it's much easier to let go when you've got it documented in an SOP and you know exactly what you're asking someone to do. And then they can clearly understand that.
Right. Okay, so 3 repetitive tasks. Identify what those are. Create a simple process document or a video that goes along with it. Think about who can take that for you and then make yourself a deadline. Okay, this is step 4. I know you don't like 4s. Set yourself a deadline for implementation.
OCD, I don't know what you're talking about.
And then stick to that. Like, it's really important if you just keep letting that deadline slip. And I know that you don't. If you're building your business, you don't just let your sourcing slip. You don't just let your prep and ship slip. You're keeping on track. So keep on track with this too, right?
Yeah. I like it.
Your ultimate goal is to build a business that serves your life, okay? Not something that consumes your life.
Yeah. Not to put too fine a point on it, but in the beginning, it's when you're in an intense focused effort, it's going to consume your life.
Oh, yeah.
It has to, and you have to get through that as quickly as possible because, like you are fond of saying, if you get to the end of that runway and you're not going fast enough, you're not going to take off. You're going to have to turn around and go start over. So that initial intense focused effort is going to be really important for you to dive in and get that taken care of so that you can spread that out.
I think you have to want to be consumed by this in that initial period of intense focus effort.
At the same time, I think you have to be very careful with yourself and schedule in breaks, time with your family, things that, because this is what you're really focusing on hard, and you've got to keep some balance, even during that time.
And, I would say, just to be fair, a lot of the topics that we were covering today are probably more like once you've gotten liftoff.
Yeah.
You've gone down the runway,
Agreed.
boom, you're in the air, bing. Now is the time to start doing this stuff so that you can go fly the plane.
Yep. I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So do you have a quote for us today, Brian?
I do have a quote for us today. This quote comes to us from Howard Schultz.
Oh, the Starbucks guy.
Starbucks.
Yes.
Founder of Starbucks. When you're surrounded by people who share a passionate commitment around a common purpose, anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
I thought it was quite apropos for the topic of conversation today, that you're surrounding yourself with people who are going to help you build this business. And when you find the ones who want to be good at what they do and get better and have this continuous improvement, yeah, anything is possible.
Yes.
All of a sudden you go from, $5,000 months to $500,000 months, right? Like not all of a sudden, it takes time, but
it's not lost on me that Howard Schultz, who talked to some 270 investors or something, and 260 of them said no. Like, this guy knows about nothing's impossible. Keep pushing.
That's right. That's right.
Amazing stories like that. They're everywhere. They're everywhere.
So when it seems impossible, when it seems like nothing is going your way, when it seems like you need to hit a home run or you just need to get a win, you know what solves that?
Go find some more aces.
What cures that? Let's go find some more aces.
Go test more aces.
All right, let's go test some more aces. It's great to see you, everyone.
Great to see you. Talk to you soon.
Hey, thanks for joining us today. But before I let you go, let's spend a couple minutes with my good friends, Jeff Schick and Leah Modlin from jeffschick.com. Of course, they are resident experts for all things e-commerce, Amazon, and Walmart legal and policy. We don't talk about Walmart as much with you guys, but let's dive in. What all do you guys cover?
So we cover the same, gamut of stuff that we cover for Amazon. So it's account health, IP claims are common on Walmart. They have, instead of brand registry, it's called brand center. Brands can file IPs, counterfeits, trademarks, copyrights, all that stuff. So we've worked on all those sort of cases. And then also the suspensions. So we've worked on a bunch of suspension cases for Walmart sellers now, which range anywhere from, what Walmart terms retail arbitrage, which is what Amazon calls drop shipping, people being accused of drop shipping. We've also had people get accused of, like late cancellations or other, order defect rate type suspensions as well. And we've helped sellers successfully navigate those arenas as well.
So Leah, you deal with both. What's it like dealing with Walmart compared to Amazon from your perspective?
So I trying to think of a good way to put this. It's almost when I see that I'm going to be working on a Walmart suspension, it's I almost have like a slight sigh of relief because usually the situations are a lot more easier to assess. Walmart suspensions very courteously come with a set of questions, normally that they'd like the seller to answer. So you can collect the list of questions from the seller. You can answer those questions in a reasonable way, create a logical plan of action that is a solution to prevent said problem from happening again. And then you can present that data and documentation evidence to Walmart. And typically, as long as you're presenting something that makes sense to Walmart, which they seem to have a much more logical team over there as well. Usually those suspensions are significantly shorter than we have over on the Amazon side, where we're sometimes in a position where we're finding ways to present the same information differently to win back an account. Whereas with Walmart, usually it's a first time appeal gets accepted. And then occasionally you do have a couple follow-ups, but it's not uncommon to have an issue one day and have an appeal by the next, depending on, the tier of that client's account, and have a suspension be resolved within 24 to 48 hours, which is amazing in compared to the Amazon appeal process.
Yeah, excellent. Because we are seeing more and more Amazon sellers looking for that backup next income stream. And a lot of them are saying, hey, Walmart makes sense. We're seeing some people do really well there. And it's a good chance for us to remind people that sellers, hey, jeffschick.com, they cover Amazon, Walmart, and what else you mentioned? Shopify?
Yeah, Shopify, eBay. We've worked on that handmade company, Etsy. Worked on cases there as well. So pretty much across the board, anything e-commerce, we've tended to work on something for it.
Excellent. It's a good chance to remind everyone that it's not just Amazon, it's anything e-commerce policy and legal. You guys are on retainer for a few dollars a month for my team. And and many, many great people in our community as well. So thank you for being a great sponsor of the show. And can I have you back next week?
Absolutely. We'll be back.
Talk to you guys then. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this great episode of Silent Sales Machine Radio. We have a very quick announcement that you don't want to miss right now.
Does anyone out there ever feel uncertain when choosing an ACE in a test? Like, it's ambiguous and you're not really sure.
Yeah, or like you have to stand on one leg on the second Tuesday of the first week of the month if the moon is in retrograde.
Right. And hold your mouth right. You gotta remember to hold your mouth right. Then you might possibly
consider testing that ASIN someday, maybe.
Right. Sometimes Keepa seems overwhelming. Like it's got so many data points. What if I'm missing something? I'm afraid I'm missing something, so I don't want to pull the trigger. Right?
Yes. Well, we host a 2-day workshop that will demystify the process of building a predictable, scalable, and sustainable book of business on Amazon.
Yeah, it starts with a pre-flight inspection of a listing. So you can answer the question, should I go any further with this ASIN or do I need to move on?
If you get past that, we're going to show you how to apply 3 simple yes or no questions that will help you decide whether to pull the trigger or not. Yeah. Like, is this even a good ASIN to test?
Right. And if you do decide to test it, we'll help you implement a framework for a 4-week testing process. And this process is clear and methodical, and it'll tell you whether you should replenish that ASIN or not.
Now, in these 2 days, we're going to roll up our sleeves and we're going to practice how to apply these critical concepts together. It's intense, it's focused, and it's packed with frameworks, quizzes, and actionable information that really is going to stack the deck in your favor when finding your first 100 replenishable ASINs.
Or your next 100 replenishable ASINs.
Yes, I love it.
Yes. You're going to leave with a roadmap to create your foundational book of business over the next few months.
Our next workshop is May 27th and 28th in Orlando, Florida.
Yeah, but seating is limited. It's an intimate setting, but you'll be able to ask all of your questions, plus you'll hear all the questions of the other attendees.
Yeah, this is fun, dynamic, educational. It's a great experience where you will get to meet and work with other people who are doing the same things that you are with similar goals. Mm-hmm. Imagine how you would feel when you get back home after the workshop and you're feeling transformed from unsure to certain, from cautious to confident, from overwhelmed to empowered.
Right. Yeah. You don't have to stand on one leg anymore and hold your mouth right. Just making sure, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right. So if you would like to feel that way, go to provenamazoncourse.com/100. That's provenamazoncourse.com/100. And we look forward to seeing you there because we're inspired by the accomplishments of others.
We're passionate about helping others reach their goals.
And we're committed to sharing the keys to success that have been shared with us.